and today we're going to be going through the step-by-step guide on how international medical graduates can be able to enter medical practice in Canada. It's going to be like an overview, and then you'll be able to learn in more details with your questions or by also doing your own further research. So let's go through. This is what we're going to cover today. We'll talk about the core pathways to independent practice, then walk through the credential verification and then the required exams. Then we'll give you tips and resources. All right, so what are the core pathways? So there are three main pathways. Most people know about the residency pathway, which is through CAMS. CAMS is the Canadian Resident Matching Service. So then the second one is the practice ready assessment, which is usually for people that have some experience, whether it's through residency or independent practice, and usually mostly for family physicians, mostly. Then we have the third one, which is the practice eligibility route. This appears to specialists alone, some specialists. So we'll go through each of them one by one. But first, let's go through what is common for all the three pathways. So you need to first source verify your documents. And this is done through physiciansapply.ca, which is managed by the Medical Council of Canada, which is simply called MCC. So you need to verify your ID first, your medical degree, your transcripts, your house job, your residency training documents, whichever one you have, we need to verify all of them through the physician's apply because they need to verify that you are who you said you are. So usually they send your documents to ECFMG, they do the verification, they contact your school or the issuing institution, whether it's your medical school or MDCN, the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria. I remember my house job had to be verified via MDCN, but other things like my transcripts, my certificates had to be done through my medical school. And then you actually need this to be done before you sit for any of the exams. And one thing to know is that this can take months, of course, you know where we're coming from. This can take several months, so it's good to start doing this early because you cannot predict how long it's going to take your institution to be able to get this done. And then another thing to note about the verification is ensuring that your medical school appears on the website where we call the World Directory of Medical Schools. So you can just put that on to your Google and search that and put in the country, your school, and then ensure that your medical school appears there because they need to ensure that your school is listed on the World Directory of Medical Schools. And it also must include the Canadian sponsor notes that confirms the eligibility. So it's good to check this early. And if it's not listed, then you might need to know what to do, whether it's to contact your school or whichever, to be able to know what to do to ensure that it's correctly listed, to be able to enable you to apply for the residency program or whichever pathway. Then another general thing that applies to virtually all pathways is also your permanent residency status or your citizenship. Most positions, most especially the residency positions, require you to be a Canadian permanent resident or be a Canadian citizen. Some PRA and PR programs, it varies by province. Some of them may allow work permits, but generally, most of them require PR or citizenship. So that means immigration is a very critical step while you are planning everything you are doing. So you need to check your own eligibility, know the pathway that fits you best, that can enable you become a Canadian PR, because if you do not get your permanent resident status, you will not be able to start your residency program. People have lost their residency program status, like they were able to match, but they couldn't start before because of that. So that is very important. So what are the examinations that are required generally? So the first two are very foundational, like they're fundamental. The MCCQ1 and the NACOSKI. They are mandatory for IMGs in most provinces. The MCCQ1, everybody writes the exams, including the Canadian medical graduates. But the NACOSKI is for IMGs, the international medical graduates, or internationally trained physicians. So they assess your knowledge and your clinical skills respectively. So typically the Q1 occurs about 4 times a year, and it's not just in Canada, it's also you can write it in up to 70 or 80 other countries. So it makes it easier that you can be able to start this process before you come to Canada. And it can be done on site at a prometric center, or it can be remote proctored. NACOSK is usually done in Canada, has to be done in Canada. Then the language proficiency exam, whether it's IELTS academic or the CELPIP general or OET medicine, you need a proof of one of them that you're able to prove your English language proficiency. And of course, usually we advise that you aim for above average scores because they help you to secure interviews. Provinces usually modify their requirements. So we usually say it's good to check the each province websites regularly, but these are the general requirements for most of them. And then talking about the CAMS, the residency program, it's a centralized matching system that is used to allocate the residency positions across Canada. Typically, the IMGs have their own separate IMG stream. So we usually have the CMG stream where only CMGs can apply through. CMGs, the Canadian medical graduates. We have the IMG stream, and then we have the ones we say competitive. Usually, if you see competitive on the CAMPS website, it means both CMGs and IMGs can be able to apply for that same position. But usually we have the IMG stream separate for most applications. And then we usually have two iterations. After the first iteration, the second iteration, and then some programs and institutions can participate in what we call a post-match process. So this usually lasts most times between November and March, April, May. So this pathway is usually suitable best for new graduates that usually do not have extensive independent practice experience. It's very competitive. So you need to prepare very carefully. You need to have a very strong portfolio, whether it's your personal statements, your reference letter, your proof of language proficiency, and your credit experience, if you have any, before you apply. So this is like a summary about the CAMPS requirements. So you need to verify your credential first. Remember, that's like the first step. Then your scores, your MCCQ1 and your NAC scores, your proof of language proficiency. And for the language proficiency, usually for SLPIP, you need a minimum score of 9 in each of the 4 skills in the same sitting. For IELTS academics, you usually need a minimum score of 7.0 in each of the 4 skills in the same sitting. And talking about IELTS, remember, not the general, because the IELTS general is required for your PR application. For IELTS academics is required for CAMPS application. So it's good to differentiate that and know which one you are writing. So you don't make a mistake. And for OET medicine, we usually need to have a minimum of grade of B in each of the 4 skills in the same sitting. And also clinical experience observership. So if you have that, if you're available, whether it's clinical assistant position or clinical associate position or observerships, that would be helpful if you have that. Then you need strong reference letter. So this is why you need to maintain good relationship with your lecturers, your supervisors, whether it's your community medicine project supervisor that can write about you, or your lecturers and whoever, because you need strong reference letters and your personal letters. These are very important in your application, and then the PR or citizenship. So now we're done with CAMS. Okay, this is just a brief thing about, I've mentioned it's very competitive. Like for example, for this 2025, about 48% of IMG applicants, like those that had completed their applications, were able to match. Usually, family medicine is most accessible because they have more number of seats than the specialties. It doesn't mean you cannot get in. I'm in a specialty program, public health and family medicine. So I have my family medicine, but my program is public health. So even though we're very few, with my school we take about 2 per year. So it's like from family medicine that can take up to like 50 or more per year. So that's why most times people go for family medicine because we have more number of seats in each institution. But doesn't mean you cannot get in. Of course, when you work hard and pray, you'll be able to and prepare very well. God will be able to help you to be able to still get it. Sometimes you might not match in the first time. It doesn't matter. Still work hard, prepare the second time, persistence pays. Apply again. Many people match after more than one trial, but that's okay. What matters is that you get in finally. So now this is like the summary. Okay, yes. Talking about the credentials, then the exams, then the CAMPS application, then you do the residency training, then you get certified either by the College of Family Physicians of Canada or the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Canada. for the specialties before you now get your full independent license to be able to practice in Canada. Most residency training positions are usually between 2 to 5 years, but it gives you mobility across Canada, no matter the province that you got it. When you are licensed in one province, you can be able to practice in the other provinces after applying and getting the license in the other provinces. Now let's talk about the alternative pathway routes for physicians that might have some experience. So the first one will be the practice ready assessments. So these are designed for usually for IMGs with some independent clinical experience. Usually, most times for family medicine, it differs by province. Some require you to just have just 1 year of experience, which house job could count for. Some requires at least 2. Some people use house job and youth service, some more than that. So that's why it's good to look at each provincial website to be able to see. So whenever we talk about looking at each provincial website, this is because according to the Canadian Constitution, healthcare delivery and administration is the responsibility of each province and territory in Canada. So it's not like done federally. So that's why everything is usually by the province or territory. So I know we have 10 provinces and 3 territories. So usually you have a 12-week supervised clinical assessment. Here, the physician is evaluated in the full scope of family practice, including the clinics, the ER, the emergency room, hospital, long-term care settings. So usually with this leads to a provincial license. PRA, of course, when you see this, you can see it's faster than residency. So when you are coming in, you are expected to be able to practice independently. So that's why it usually has a more strict eligibility criteria for you to be able to come in here to be able to do this. So these are the different provinces that participate in these practice ready assessment programs. There are about 9 provinces, as you can see here, that participate in this program. So some provinces like Quebec, Manitoba, and Alberta also offer PRA for specialists, in addition to family physicians. So then for some countries, they are allowed direct licensure. But Nigeria obviously is not one of them. And some approved jurisdiction, we call them approved jurisdiction like UK, UK, US and USA and Australia. So for Manitoba, even though most of them are, you have to have PR or citizenship, I think Manitoba, you might allow work permits for you to be able to do the PRA. So generally, you need 2 to 3 years of recent independent practice in the preceding 5 years before you apply. You need to have successfully completed your MTCQ1 and NACOSQ for most province. Some of them favor MTCQ1 over NACOSQ, some favor NACOSQ over MTCQ1. But most generally, we say have both of them and do well to pass well. Then your English proficiency exam, you must have passed that too. Then you need, of course, strong reference letters and proof of your independent practice. So we go back again to the first step, source verification. That's why those are the common steps for most application process, most pathways. Like I mentioned, PR is very rigorous and your performance is observed in real clinical settings where you are seeing the patients. Some of them say 2 to 3 years of recent independent practice. Ontario started recently, we call that Practice Radio Ontario. They count theirs in hours. You are required to have about 960 hours of clinical practice as a family physician or general practitioner in the immediately preceding 3 years. And they can count up to 240 hours of telemedicine or virtual care for your recency of practice, up to 240 hours only. So that means a minimum of 720 hours has to be in-person care. Some people can use licensed clinical assistant job as to bridge the gap when they've been out of school for a while, but that has to be a licensed one, so it has a regulatory body. Because some clinical assistant positions like the one in Ontario is not licensed, but some like the one in Manitoba is licensed, and that can count as recency of practice to bridge the gap. So this is a summary of the step-by-step process for PRA. You apply directly to the province, and then they review your documents, review your exams and everything, and let you know if you qualify or not. If they approve, they will need you to sit for an exam we call TDM, Therapeutic Decision Making Exam. And after that, then you will now be undergo your supervised clinical field assessment in a Canadian setting. And if you pass that after about 12 weeks on average for most provinces, you now get into a supervised practice period after you've received your provisional license. You get to a provisional license and then you practice under supervision, usually in an underserved community. So typically you have a return of service. Some people are 1 year, some put 2 years, some 3, some up to 6 years. After the return of service, then you can be able to get your full licensure. So the next one will be the pathway for the specialists. So this is the practice eligibility route. So this is an alternative route for internationally trained specialists. And that means it's offered by the, so when you hear Royal College is about the specialists, we have the Family Physician College separate, College of Family Physicians of Canada. So this is offered by the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Canada. For those that their postgraduate training was not completed in a Royal College accredited Canadian or US program. So they recognize specialty training worldwide, everywhere. And so what they do is that they evaluate the person's training and practice, whether they are equivalent in both duration and the quality or the content to a Canadian specialty training standard. So that's why we say submit everything you've done. You don't know which one is going to be important, whether it's a master's or your PhD, or you went for electives outside the country. Submit everything. You don't know what they are going to evaluate and what counts, because they're trying to evaluate to see whether what you did is equivalent to that of the Canadian standard. So if it's approved, then the person can be allowed to sit for the Royal College specialty exams. So even after you receive the exam eligibility, you must still complete all the exam components, which include the oral and the written. And generally, for most provinces, you need to complete 2 years of practice under supervision in Canada, where you are assessed against the Canadian expectations before you can become fully certified. So here, the Royal College certifies you. This is not a license to practice. The Royal College certifies you if you meet these requirements. If they deem it fit that your training was equivalent. So they're assessing your training. If your training they think it's equivalent to the Canadian training, they say, okay, you can write the Royal College exam. If you're able to write the Royal College exam and you pass, and you're able to practice 2 years under supervision, then pass that, then they can certify you. You can get the Royal College certification. So this route, of course, is less commonly used. And like I mentioned, it's just for the specialists. It gets to remove the barrier for most specialists that train outside Canada, while still ensuring that we meet the standards of competence for Canadian population. Some provinces may require QA1. So that's why we always say, look at each provincial website. And in some provinces, fellowship training counts. So the 1 year out of your fellowship training, whether it's a 2 year fellowship, can count towards the 2 years that is required for you to practice in Canada. So the truth is, most times, fellowship might be the easier route for most people to come in. And then it gives you opportunities just supervised by those that can provide Canadian reference letters for you, which of course, is very important. And you get integrated into the Canadian healthcare system. So this pathway gives you the certification, not the licensure. You have to still go to the province where you now get the licensure. But when you get a certification, of course, it makes everything easier. So if you are thinking of which pathway do you think is the best for you, for new graduates, of course, CAMS, the residency program. If you have some experience with some rotations, or you already did your family medicine residency program, you can do whether CAMS to go through the residency program again, which is just 2 years for family medicine, or you go through the PRA route. If you're a specialist, you can do PR or PRA for the few provinces that offer PRA for specialists, or CAMS. So it depends, everybody's pathway is different. It depends on your background, your training, your experience, and what your long-term goals for yourself. So like I mentioned earlier, we have what we call the approved jurisdiction route for specialists. So these specialists are I think there are about 29 of them on the Royal College website. So they completed their postgraduate training in one of those jurisdictions. And in the years that's applicable according to the Royal College, then they might be able to complete the Royal College exam straight without having to do the 2 years of supervised practice in Canada. But of course, I don't think Nigeria it's amongst that. So generally, key tips. I would say before you come to Canada, what should you do to make things easier for you? And not think you have to come to Canada to be able to start doing everything. Things you can start doing while you're still back home. Start your verification of your documents, verify all your credentials. Just open an account on physiciansapply.ca, create the account, and it's easier for you while you are still there. You can walk into your office if they are delaying with the transcript or whichever document to talk to whomsoever that can move the documents forward. Because the truth is, most times delay is from the institutions, from our institutions back home. The MCC usually moves things forward fast, easily, but the delays are usually from back home in our country. So start your credential verification, write your language proficiency exam, whether it's IELTS or SELP or OET, you can write that from back home. Of course, keep working to maintain your recency of practice, which we know is very important. Then prepare thoroughly and write your Q1. You can actually write your Q1 from Nigeria, to the best of my knowledge. I think there's a center in Lagos. So there's a center in about 70 countries. So you can actually write your Q1 before you come over, and then apply for your PR, of course, and make sure that you have your PR. It makes things easier. So that when you're coming in with all these things already, you know you're just coming in to write your NA and apply to whether it's residency or PRA or PER. It makes things move smoother and faster for you. So I would say do your personal research for the different pathways in the different provinces and territory to know which ones suits you best or which ones, because there could be more than one or two. Then networking is very important, and resilience, persistence, also extremely important. It might take you more than one attempt, but that's okay. What matters is pray as if everything depends on prayer and work hard as if everything depends on working hard. And you would surely make it. So finally, these are the key official resources I use for my presentation. So thank you very much for your attention. We'll hand over to the next speaker, and then we'll be glad to take your questions at the end.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chidubem, for that extensive information. I do hope we have our questions noted down and we'll come back to it later. Just to address a few things, the chat is consistently being swamped with people's phone numbers to be added to the group chat. I will send a link out so that you can fill out the spreadsheet just to limit the chat box for people with actual questions with regards to the presentation. Having said that, so our next speaker is someone we may all know. He is a medical doctor, graduated from Nnamdi Azikiwe University, where he made the dean's list as one of the best top 10 graduating students of the faculty, earning several awards and, of course, holding various leadership positions. During his service year, he served as the chief medical director in camp and at the Nigerian Christian Copper Fellowship, Rivers State, Nigeria. After completing his NYSC, he pursued a second degree in pharmacy at Nnamdi Azikiwe University and graduating as the overall best of the faculty with a groundbreaking CGPA record. He is also passionate about community health and humanitarian service. He has organized and participated in numerous free medical outreaches across several communities in Nigeria. He also frequently delivers healthcare talks on radios, television programs, etc., including churches and schools. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Good Shepherd Hospital and Mirrors Pharmaceuticals, all both located in Nigeria. Currently, he serves as a pediatric resident doctor at the University of Arkansas Medical Center here in the United States, and also the Young Doctors Coordinator of the Christian Medical and Dental Association, North America and the Caribbean region. He is the coordinator of this meeting. He enjoys a happy marriage with his beautiful wife, and they share a wonderful family. So please join me as we welcome Dr. Pharmacist Oluyewube Okoye.
All right. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on where you are joining me from. Thank you so much, the anchor of this meeting, for trying to share my slide. Okay. Yeah, for that wonderful introduction. Yeah. Can you see my slide? Can you just indicate if you can see that?
Can you put it in presenter mode?
Okay, I think it's all right. Just a minute. All right. Can you see it now?
Yes, that's better.
All right. So thank you, the first speaker, Dr. Chidubem, for that very extensive explanation about the step-to-step guide towards residency in Canada. And I'm here to talk about the US. And I know that this is something that a lot of persons don't know about. Some of us got this information very late, and it kind of made it a bit, made us not to take the decision earlier on. And this was part of the reason why we decided to host it for some of us that are trusting God to go through this pathway towards becoming residents in the US and Canada. And one of the things I would just want to start by telling us that it's something that is doable. I know that as the first speaker was talking, some persons will be like trying to check how possible it will be, and you know, already looking at these different limitations and the challenges that may come up at the end of the day. But the truth of the matter is that if some of us were able to do it, I believe that there is nobody out there, there is no doctor or medical student out there that will not be able to do that. All right. Well, I usually start with a very important scripture that I consider very important to me, and that is actually knowing your why. I usually tell people that, it's popularly said that if the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable. If you don't know the reason why you are doing something, it kind of affects your drive, it kind of affects your motive. It makes it that it will be very easy for you to give up at the end of the day. So for me, this is actually my why. Why do you want to come to the US? Why do you want to go to Canada to pursue residency as a medical doctor? And in the book of Matthew 2 verse 13 to 15, it's Bible talked about the angel of God appearing to Joseph, telling him to take Jesus to Egypt because Herod was about to kill Jesus. And Jesus had to embark on that journey in order to save his life. And, I used to tell people that for me, I believe that for my Jesus to be preserved, I need to leave certain environments. The preservation may not be about physical killing, about end of life, but it's about destiny. It's about the plan that God has for you. There are certain things that I believe that you may not be able to, experiences, knowledge, expertise, skills that you may not be able to achieve or know if you don't come to an environment that gives you the opportunity to have such experiences, to be able to have a hand-on expertise and knowledge about that particular area. Ever since I started residency in the US, there are a lot of things that I believe that we are never possible that I saw being possible. As a medical student, there are certain things that we are reading in books those days, and we'll be like, this is actually not possible. This is actually textbook information. But as a resident doctor, I've been able to look at and practice some of these things and see it being done, not just by reading those things over the book. And these are some of the things that one may not be able to have known, experienced, if one decided to do residency back there at home. And at the end of the day, discover that there are limits to what you can be able to give back to your community. If you decide to, help your community, there are certain things that you may not be able to do because of the fact that you don't have, such experiences. So I believe that as Christians, as people that have such drive towards going to the US and Canada, we must first of all ask ourselves, why do we actually want to go about this pathway? Why am I trusting God to pursue residency in the US? Are you going there to advance your knowledge, to get better experience, to get better skills, to be able to help your community, to be able to help people back there at home? There are a lot of ailments or disease conditions that, because of the limited expertise, knowledge, and even medical equipment that we have, we are not able to manage back there at home. But with us having those experiences here, we can actually be able to take it back home and be able to help our environment. And the second why is actually money. Yeah, I actually put it second, but let's not make it a very carnal. It's actually a thing that there is also more money when you practice, over here as a medical doctor. All right. The next thing is the steps towards residency. First of all, you have to do your verification. I just have to break it down. Then I will just talk about some of them one after the other. For US residency, you first of all need to do your verification, and then you do your step 1, your step 2, then you do your plus or minus your step 3. All right. Then OET, the certification pathways, you apply for residency, you go for interview, you do your ranking, then you match. All right. And one of the differences between residency in the US and Canada is that for US, you don't need to be in the US to be able to match into residency. You don't need to be a US citizen to be able to match into US residency. Actually, I did everything from Nigeria. The first time I came to the US was when I was coming to start my residency. So not being in the US is not a limitation towards you starting residency or applying for residency in the US. Before now, it used to be that you have to come to the US for your step 2 CS. But the good thing was that because of when COVID started and the limitation of movement and everything, they had to remove that aspect of step 2. That was step 2 clinical skills, and replace it with OET. And now you can actually do your OET in your home country and do everything you need to do in your home country. And the first time you're coming to the US is when you are doing your residency. That's also another very another thing that makes it a bit easier compared to doing residency probably in Canada. And I guess that's also one of the reasons why a lot of persons, decide to go the US pathway rather than the Canadian pathway. And another thing there is also the fact that US has a very large pool of opportunities and hospitals that are open to doctors. When I came over here, I discovered one of the reasons why US can never do without IMGs, that's international medical graduates, because there are quite a whole lot of openings, opportunities, lots available out there that are looking for doctors, and that's why they are always hoping and looking forward to having IMGs coming to help the population, to help their healthcare system. So it's something that is also very important, that wherever you are, you can actually be able to, go about the process of starting your residency in the US or in Canada. So your verification is the first thing. However, you can actually be doing your verification as you are preparing for your steps. I used to tell people that you don't wait to get the money to start verification before you start preparing for step. It's actually something that you can do while you are trying to raise the money to do the whole verification, because it's not something that it's going to take you 1 year. Most times it takes more than 1 year. I tell people it's a marathon and not a sprint. It's something that is going to take a while, because there are quite, you have a lot of exams to prepare. You need to study quite a lot of things. So we need to start the process as soon as possible. And I know a lot of persons that started while they were in medical school. I know someone that wrote his step 1 and step 2 while in medical school. He passed, immediately finished from medical school. As he was doing his housemanship, he decided to apply for matching, and he also matched. So it's something that you can start even while in medical school. And the good thing there is that for step 1, clinical knowledge base is actually mainly most of the things that we do in medical school. Your second and third MD work, depending on the way your school structures it. That's your anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, pathology, pharmacology, and the whole sub-specialties of pathology or microbiology, chemical pathology, immunology, and the rest. These are actually some of the things that, the the knowledge base for step 1. Then for step 2, that's where you now talk about your clinical part of medical school, your obs and gyn, your pediatrics, surgery, internal medicine, and the rest. Step 3 is more like everything, step 1, step 2, knowledge, and the rest. So it's something that, even if you're in medical school, you're 4th year, you can be preparing for your step 1, you're in 5th year, you can be preparing for your step 1, and the rest. And, whenever you're able to raise the money, you can start the process. So the first thing is do your step 1, as you also do your verification. But the thing there is that you must have completed your verification before you're able to write your step 1. Okay, so after your verification is completed, you can apply for your step 1, write your step 1. Then when you pass your step 1, you can decide to do your step 2 when you feel you are ready for it. Then after step 2, most times people decide to do OET. And OET is Occupational English Test. It's more or less like IELTS. But here in the US, what they use is OET. And it's an English test. People decide to, you just have to do it, because without your OET, you cannot be certified. You cannot be given ECFNG certificate. That certificate to practice as a doctor here in the US. So with your step 1, step 2, and your OET, you can apply for your certification, or what we call pathways. There are different pathways. Pathway 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. So why I wrote plus or minus step 3 is that you don't need to write step 3 before you apply for matching. All right. I will still talk about the importance or not, what the pros and cons of writing or not writing step 3 is. So the point there is that for step 3 is not compulsory. And the thing about step 3 is that you must be in the US to be able to write step 3. You cannot write step 3 outside the US. So if you are in Nigeria, whichever country you are, you have to apply for visa, come to the US to write step 3. Some of us didn't write our step 3 over there in Nigeria. I actually personally wrote my step 3 some days ago, if not maybe less than a week ago. So, but if you have opportunity to come to the US, or you're already in the US, and you can actually apply for your step 3 and write your step 3. But it also has its advantage, if you're able to write your step 3 before you start your residency. Then the next thing is your application. But when you are done with your OET, get your certification, that's your certificate to practice. You can now apply to different hospitals. And there are quite a whole lot of hospitals in the US, like I think they are in their thousands that does residency. So you can actually apply to different hospitals. And when you apply, they now send you an interview invite, more or less like invite you to be interviewed in their program. You do your interview. After your interview, around February, you can do your ranking. Ranking is more or less like, right, as in ranking the programs that gave you opportunities to interview with them, more or less like your choices. So this is my first choice, second choice, third choice, fourth choice, fifth choice, and the rest, depending on the number of interviews that you have. Then there is what we call the algorithm will now kind of match you to your preferred programs. That is how it works. It's a little bit complex. Then the next thing is, by March of every year, there is always what we call matching. You kind of tend to match into the program. All right. So the next thing is, I wrote it there. How do you start? Where to begin? You start studying, also begin registration process, and the website or the body responsible for the registration process is what called my Instelt. They're the ones that are responsible for the process. All right. So talking about step 1, I know a lot of us here are actually those that are about to start. And I tell people, where do you start? Start with step 1. All right. You don't need, the other information may not really be so much important. What you just need to know is that it's something you can actually do wherever you are. All right. You don't need to come to the US to start any process. Start applying for step 1. And what are the materials that you need for your step 1 application? You need your first aid. First aid is like the textbook. We call it the Bible of step 1. You need your first aid. That's the textbook. You need your U-word. U-word is like the question bank that you need to use. Then you need your MBME. MBME is like an assessment tools that you need. Then you have your Pathoma. Pathoma is a textbook of pathology. You just need to read some few chapters of Pathoma. Then there are also some videos that people do. You have board and beyond videos. You have sketchy videos. That's for people that actually enjoy doing videos. And from the response I've gotten from people, that it's really helped them a lot to be able to solidify their clinical knowledge, especially for those that have long left clinical practice or long left medical school a long time ago. So the videos can actually be helpful towards helping you to refresh your mind and get used to a lot of medical stuffs. Then other miscellaneous I wrote there are some podcasts. There's one called the Divine Intervention podcast that you can actually listen to. The guy is a doctor here in the US, and he kind of explain different concepts for step 1, step 2, step 3 when it comes to the USMLE. And I listen to them, and they are really, really very important. So I mean, you can actually listen to those podcasts. And even now that we are trying to start the process, you can actually start by listening to the podcast. It's free of charge. You just go out there, just type www.divineinterventionpodcasts.org. Then you see a whole lot of podcasts, can download, listen to, and the rest. Then you do some people also go to YouTube to watch some videos on statistics and the rest, especially for those that don't have very strong and good knowledge about statistics. Okay, so then let's talk about money. I know that this is where a lot of persons really get a little bit scared about the whole process. Well, how much does it take? Yeah, it takes a little handful of money to be able to do the application or apply. But I mean, don't look at the figures. It's actually, let it not intimidate you, but it's actually something that is very much doable. For the verification process, you actually need to have done the first 3. You must create an account with My Int Health. That's $100. Do your application with the CFMG. That's $550, $60. Then do your credential verification, $200. You must have to do that before you now apply for your step 1. That's $695 currently. All right. So that's why I said that even if you don't have the money yet, you can start the process of your studying for your step 1 while you are trying to raise money for the verification. Then your step 1, step 2, $695, then plus or minus step 3, that's $925. Your pathways take about $925. Then you still have to, there are also a little other fees that you might need. You may need to subscribe for your U-Word, you need to pay for OET. Then you may need to travel expenses. Like for those in Nigeria doesn't have any location for writing step 1. So you may have to go to Ghana to go and write step 1. So you need to fly to Ghana. You can decide to go by land transport. Then you may have to pay for your accommodation, your feeding and everything, travel expenses down to Ghana. Then you may have to pay, you also need to pay your ERAS. So there's what we call ERAS token. It's just $160 as at last year. That's also to enable you to be able to apply for the matching. Then apply to different programs rather. Then you also need to pay for program application that's applied to different programs. You actually pay to apply. Then the NRMP ranking, you also need to pay a little amount of money. I think it's about $70 or there. But these are some other fees that may be necessary. Then what are the requirements for a successful match? I tell people, what do you need to know about a match? Is it about writing step 1 and passing step 1? Writing step 2 and passing step 2? Well, for now, step 1 is just pass or fail. So you need to pass step 1. Then you need to have a good step 2 score. Just have a little bit above average. Then having research experiences is very important. So for those of us in medical school who are already doctors in residency, you need to have some research experiences. It's not a must, it's not compulsory, but if you have, it's a plus. All right. So if you have some researches you published, you have some poster presentations, some things you've done, it really goes a long way helping. Then the next thing is home country clinical experience. It's not compulsory, but it also helps that you have a little clinical experience in your home country. Then the next thing is your leadership and voluntary activities. One of the things I tell people here is that in the US, everything you've done really matters. Some of the leadership positions that you've held in medical school, some of the things that you are doing currently, even in residency, they are also very important. Some of the voluntary activities that you've done, for those of us in CMDA, our rural medical outreaches and the rest that you've done, they are part of your voluntary experiences, and they also really very much matters. Then the next thing is your awards. The awards you've gotten so far, maybe you are the best in your medical school, you got an award as the best president of whatever association, whatever award they gave you, you can actually package it, and it's also very, very important. The award must not be medically related. Even non-medically related awards are also very important. Then the next thing is your US clinical experience. If you're able to have US clinical experience, it's also very good. Though a lot of persons may not be able to have it because you are practicing over there, you are over there outside the US. But there are some persons that are able to get some virtual experiences. We'll call it tele-rotation. Over there in Nigeria, you are doing some tele-rotations in the US, and it also helps you to be able to match. Then the next thing is your year of graduation. There is this popular saying that the younger or the earlier you graduate, the younger you are, or the lower your year of graduation, the more chances of you matching. All right. But I mean, they said if you're more than 5 years, it reduces your chances. But the truth is that whichever year you are, you can actually still match. Some of us, we are over 10 years of graduating and we're still matched. So that should not be a problem. The most important thing is how are you able to package your application? It actually helps you to match. Then step 3, wait here is not compulsory, but it enhances your chances. Why it's not compulsory is because you can actually start residency without step 3. But to enhance your chance means that, yes, programs prefer those that have step 3 because they know that you are not distracted when you start residency to be preparing for step 3. Then secondly, step 3 also can influence your visa type. For those with step 3, you can decide to go for H1B visa rather than J1 visa, which is somehow better. So, but without step 3, you cannot apply for your J1, your H1B visa. So that's the only difference between step 1 and the rest. So just to summarize, how do you deal with the financial limitations? Well, I tell people, start saving gradually, can do it in dollars. Then the next thing is you can actually combine with some persons to pay for question banks, or maybe get question back for those that just finished the exams. It can actually be very cheaper. Can actually be cheaper. Then there are also some free materials online that you can get, some free materials online that can also help you to get some of those stuffs. Then the next thing, you can actually get a loan. I know some persons that got a loan to be able to do their step stuff. Then another thing you must understand is that this is an investment and not an expense. You must see it as an investment, so that when you are trying to pay for this exam, you are not like you're making a lot of expenses. You're actually investing into your future. And if you understand it as an investment, it makes it that when you are making these payments, you don't feel that you are wasting a lot of money. All right. Because I was telling a friend when I was doing the whole application that the amount I spent in this application, if I use it to do something very important, I know what I would have done with it. So it really, really can be somehow financially demanding, but see it as an investment you are doing to your future and not an expenses. But because you know that few months of residency in the US, I mean, if they pay for like few months, you should be able to cover some of those expenses you've made, even if you borrowed, took some loans to be able to cover the expenses. Doing your residency and everything, you can actually be able to save up money within a few months and be able to pay up those things you've gotten. Then the other information sites, you can get some information on YouTube. There are some Facebook groups on USMLE and the rest. There are some Telegram groups. You can also get it from WhatsApp. We are hoping that after now we can create a WhatsApp group for those that are interested to kind of guide some of us on what you need to know about our residency in the US and Canada, because I know that this is more or less like a summarized version. But after now, we can decide to can actually have some one-on-one session or like a group where some persons can ask their questions and we are able to address some of those concerns. All right. So my keynote says just make sure you are disciplined as much as possible. It takes discipline to prepare for these exams, study, and try as much as possible to keep pace. It can be a bit discouraging. I used to tell a friend that when I started this process of studying for USMLE, my ego was actually challenged. Like, it was so intimidating. When I did my first MBME, I will never forget that experience. I felt I was intelligent. I've so much read. Dr. Quinette is laughing because she understands what I'm talking about. I felt, I was very much intelligent. I can be able to ace this exam. And funny enough, I actually studied for step one for some months. And I decided to okay, let me do my first MBME. I told us that MBME is your assessment to more or less help you know how much you have done. And when I did my first MBME, I failed woefully. It was so terrible that unfortunately it was on a Sunday morning. I was supposed to go to church. So when I got that result, I looked at myself. I was like, God, what was the essence of all this? I almost didn't go to church that day. I went to church. I didn't understand anything the priest was saying. I was just looking at myself like, wow. So this is how I'm going to be able to, write this residency. It was so intimidating. So just understand that if you feel that way, all of us felt the same way. Because the truth of the matter is that, the practice over there in your home country and over here is actually different. So you need to start thinking like them to understand, okay, this is how you manage this condition. This is how they think. And it takes a while for you to get used to, okay, their thought process. For some of us, most times, we think the infectious way. A lot of things is infectious disease. You think of but over there, they have different way of looking at things and looking at conditions. So it takes a while to understand the way they think. And until you understand that way, it kind of affects your performance in some of those assessments too. So it takes discipline, it takes determination. You must tell yourself that yes, irrespective of the fact that I'm not doing as well as I hope to do, that it's something I can be able to do. All of us can actually do it. I wrote there that you just need to be above average to pass. You don't need to be super intelligent. You don't need to be the BGS of your class. You don't need to be distinction candidate to be able to pass the USMLE. Once you're above average, you're a medical student. I believe that anybody that got admission to study medicine is above average enough to be able to pass. Then the next thing is that the assessment tools can actually predict your score. When you do some of these assessment tools, the good thing there is that it can predict the score you are likely to get. That's why I tell people try as much as possible to be doing those assessment tools. And when I did my step 2, I knew the range of what I'm going to score before I wrote my step 2, because my assessments was around those particular score. And after I wrote my step 2, the results came out. I actually had the range of the average of my last 3 assessments. So that's why assessment 2 is actually very important. Then the next thing is determining where you want to match. You must know your match calendar. What is your match calendar? When do you want to start residency in the US? All right. It's very important because it determines a lot of things: how you read, where you fix your exams, and how you plan yourself towards matching. Then the next thing is that you must tell yourself that it's doable, that is something that you can be able to do. All of us are able to do it. You can actually do it. Don't look at the finances. Don't look at what is expected to read. Just start the process. And before you know what is happening, you're over here in the US. Then I have said it before, that is a marathon and not a sprint. Don't think that is something that, a lot of persons, a lot of zeal, ginger, and everything. We now start, yeah, it's good to have zeal, it's good to have the ginger, but just know that it's something that's going to take a while. It's a marathon. So you need to be consistent. You know about people that I love athletics a lot. So, and I know about marathon and sprint. Sprint is like a short distance race, 100 meter, 200 meter. Within 20 seconds, you are done. Within 45 seconds, you are done. But for marathons, sometimes 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, you're running marathon. So it requires consistency, it requires discipline, and it requires the strength, the zeal to be able to go about it. And lastly, the best time to start is now. Don't delay it to, let me finish medical school, let me finish this, and let me finish that. You can actually start now, even if you don't have the money to be able to start making the payments. Start your studying. Some of those materials they are out there are cheap. Can actually start studying for getting those materials and studying for them. Yeah, thank you so much. I believe that some of us that have some questions and some confusions along the line, that we're able to get some answers to our questions. And for those that have other questions, you can drop it in the chat box, and we'll just go to see how much you can be able to respond to them. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Miracle Okoye, for your amazing presentation. I have tried as much to address some questions on the chat, But I would just keep asking the ones we haven't addressed yet. A lot of the questions are thrown to Dr. Chidubem, rightfully so. Canada is a bit blurry. So I will try to ask as much questions as possible just because of timing. Dr. Chidubem, are you available now?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so the few questions we have, I'll take the first three and then subsequently the next one. What's the process of getting the Canadian PR? I know we can't go through the entire process now, more like a summary and maybe sending the link or something. I can do that on the chat. And then a common question that came forth is there seems to be a confusion in terms of the IELTS. Are they writing both the general for the PR and the academics for the licensing pathway, or the general just suffices for both of them? Then are you to, for the 2 to 3 years independent practice, is it only for those who have had some some medical residency experience or training in their home country, or can a medical officer fit into that criteria?
Okay. Thank you for those questions. I'll probably start with the IELTS one. So you need both of them. I wrote IELTS General for the permanent rest. So everybody applying for PR, whether you're a physician or not, you need to write the IELTS, the general, if you choose to write IELTS. Some people write CELPIP. I talk about IELTS more because that's the one I wrote. I didn't write OET or CELPIP. So if you choose to write IELTS as your English proficiency proof, then you need to do general for PR, and you need to write academic IELTS for CAMS application. So you need to write two of them. And remember, they expire after 2 years. So just like Dr. Miracle mentioned about know you went to when you want to apply, to know when you want to write your exams. So you need to plan yourself well so that you know when to write the exams to be able to apply when it's still valid. Because after 2 years, I don't know, they probably think you don't know how to speak English again, and you have to write another one to maintain the validity. So you need both of them if you choose to go the IELTS pathway and not tell people OET. I did both. Then for the practice, the recency of practice and everything. So each province have their own requirements. Like for example, Saskatchewan says something like you need to have completed your internship or postgraduate training or residency in family medicine minimum of 12 months. And then you go through the usual rotations we do for our internship, the surgery, pediatrics, internal medicine, ONG, and then they added psychiatry. Then for that, you now need minimum of 26 weeks of practicing independently. And for those that have just 12 months, usually they prefer like at least 24 months in duration for your internship or residency. So then for those that have less than 24 months, you need to have practiced minimum of 156 weeks in person, which is like 3 years. For BC said something like 2 years of postgraduate training, which is training towards to become a family physician, and then 2 years of independent practice. So you see, it differs for each province. That's why you need to go to each provincial website to be able to see the requirements and see if you meet it. So you see, if some of them take your internship in addition to practicing independently, where the medical officer can work, medical officer back home in Nigeria can suffice as independent practice because you have an independent license and you're practicing independently. Some of them require that the training has to be postgraduate training towards postgraduate resident training towards becoming a family physician. So that's why each province differs. So you know which one that you fit in best and see the province that you meet their criteria, then apply to those provinces. Then I think the first question is about permanent residents. So there are different pathways for applying for a permanent resident. That is something beyond the scope of this discussion today, because whether you choose to come in as a student, like I did, and then apply for your PR, but I didn't even use my study pathway because I applied as if I was back home. So what I usually tell people first is go to the Canada website. So Canada website is very detailed on how to apply for PR. There's something we call CRS score. Put in your scores. If assuming you've written IELTS or something, put in your scores, put in your age, your years of practice and everything. Put in something that then calculate your scores and see what your scores will probably be. And then go to Canada website and check the scores they've cut in the recent months. So that's what I did. I was still studying during when I was in my Master of Public Health at UBC, University of British Columbia. Initially I was on scholarship, so I was delayed. I have no need to pursue the PR pathway. I wasn't thinking of writing the exams. But one day I just felt like, why not apply for PR? Why not write this exam? I just went, put in my scores. If you have family or children and everything, put in the scores. And I saw that I passed the scores. And I went into the pool, and in about a week, I was invited to apply. So you can, while still back home in Nigeria, if you get into the pool via federal, the express entry federal pathway, that can work for you, especially if you're younger in age. We also have the provincial pathways where you check the different provinces again to be able to see if you get nominated by a province, that actually boosts your points because provincial nomination gives you an additional 500 points, which usually when you now take that to enter the federal express entry pool, you will usually most times be invited to apply. So some people come in as students and then after studying, they can also apply through the provincial pathway because studying in Canada gives you an extra point and you're likely to get nominated by the province where you studied. So that's why there are many different pathways. But the first thing I say, check your score. If someone could probably find that to put that and then try and see what you could probably get. And then, yes, thank you for putting that, Dr. Evo. Dr. Evo is a family physician too here in Ontario with me. She's my friend. Thank you, Dr. Evo. So you can, so that's all. So check that and then you see what happened. I think those are the three main questions.
Okay, thank you so much. The next question is, can someone in a different residency program back home in their home country switch to family medicine while applying for residency in Canada? Then the second for the specialist route is the West African College of Physicians recognized? And the next question is, for those that have already started residency in their home country and are still in training but wish to relocate, what pathway is most likely for them?
So the first one is those in other residency programs, can they switch to family medicine? The short answer is yes. You can switch to family medicine. I have a friend, I actually had to speak with her this morning prior to this. She was doing her pediatric residency training back home in Nigeria, but here she went through the practice ready assessment routes and she has now completed the 12-week assessment and now working under supervision as a family physician here in one of the provinces. So yes, you can switch. It's about how you present yourself. Of course, you have to present the truth. But once you meet the criteria, you did your internship, you probably worked as a medical officer because she did too. So that counts. That's why verifying all your documents matters. Verify all the things you've done. You never can tell which one they're going to use to judge you to meet the criteria. So when you do that, yes, you can. Then the second one is about the practice PER. Yes, the West African, they recognize, so they assess specialist training worldwide. So yes, they assess your training. They want to know whether it met the duration and the quality of that of the Canadian counterparts. So that's why when you apply, put in everything you've done. I actually have a friend going through that route right now. Put in everything you've done. You never can tell what they used to do. Whether if you did an elective outside the country, put that as well. They check everything to be able to see whether it's made, because assuming you did your pediatric training like for 3 years back home, if it's 3 years wherever you did, here it's at least 4 years. Of course, it doesn't meet. It has to meet the duration at least, and then the content and the quality. So you have to put in all the rotations you did, and they will assess that with the Canadian equivalents to see if you met the criteria. So the short answer is yes, it's worldwide. Then I think the third question is about, sorry, can you remind me again, about the best way to relocate if you're back home in Nigeria?
Yes, for someone who is currently doing a residency program.
So, like we mentioned, it depends on the pathway that fits you. I don't know your background and what you've done so far prior to your residency. So that's why you can apply for the express entry and get your PR if you want to, and then come in. But of course, remember the things I said you can start doing while you are back home. Do your source verification, write your language proficiency exams, and then you can even do your Q1 back home. And then when you're coming, and then apply for PR. You can actually get your PR that when you are coming in, you're coming in to just do your NAC and then apply for whether you want to do residency program again or you want to go through the PRA pathway. If you're still in residency, of course, you don't meet the criteria for PER because you must have completed your residency training for you to be able to apply the PER and be certified, of course, back home in your country. So you are between the apply for residency through camps or the practice ready assessments. So go through each of the provinces' website and see which one you qualify for based on what you've done so far, whether it's working independently, plus your internship, plus the months of residency training, and see the provinces that you meet their criteria. If hopefully you're also able to get invited with all the things there now, the immigration laws changing with healthcare. I think we in healthcare have advantage with the PR application. So many times, like I remember when I was applying, my MBBS, which is BSc in quotes, is equivalent to masters. So I think we have an advantage when we apply for the PR. So enter the pool. If you get lucky, you get applied and you get the PR, and then coming to Canada becomes easier for you. I hope that answers the question. Do you have any other Canadian question?
We hope so too. We have a question on the financial implication for Canadian route.
Okay.
Someone asked if you don't have a PR, what visa will you be applying for? I'm not exactly sure I understand that question, if it's for residency or just to write an exam or something.
Okay.
What's the process of Canadian PR? You've addressed this already.
Yes.
And then another common question was assessing the resources for the examination, both the MCQ and the NAC.
Okay. So for the coming in, I would recommend you coming in as a permanent resident or working towards permanent residence rather than working towards work visa. For the work visa, usually it works for those already in the UK. Remember, there are some approved jurisdictions. So depending on the country where you are, some people in the UK can come in and get certified and start working on work visa, then work their way to becoming permanent residents. Yes. But if you are still back home in Nigeria, I think the best way is either you are coming in as a permanent resident, or if you want to do some other things, like I came in to do my master's on a study permit, and then while you're now finding your pathway into becoming a permanent resident and then writing your exams. I don't think it would be best, but Dr. Ivo can also chip in to be able to think of the work permit if you're or work visa if you're just coming in and planning for your exams and residency. Because for CAMS, the residency matching, you need to be a permanent resident or citizen to be able to go through CAMS and be able to match and start your residency program. So you can't start your residency program if you're going through CAMS on a work visa. You have to be at least a permanent resident. Then the other one about resources. As a baseline, most people actually use US U-Word to prepare for QA1. I know it's interesting, but we use the U-Word that people use to prepare for the US examinations. I think it's the step 2 CK that we use to be able to prepare for the QA1. Then there's also question banks like the ACE question banks. You can look that up too. MCC, the Medical Council of Canada, also has their own question banks. That one is a bit more expensive, but unless there are some free samples, about 50 questions or so, which of course mirrors more closely what is in the real exams. So these are some of the question banks people use. And also when you come in as well, we have some organizations that help. I usually recommend IMGA, is an association of International Medical Graduates of Alberta, even though it's for Alberta, but most people can join from other countries, if I'm not mistaken, and also from other provinces, because I'm sure I wasn't in Alberta when I joined. It's just $50 per year, but what you will get is way more than that. You have access to many resources, to discussion groups, which is very important. Discussion groups, it's extremely important. I recommend it for everyone. Have a group that you discuss questions with. Sometimes when you're in an exam hall, that is what you remember when you see the exams, how you argued about the question and everything. So joining discussion groups helps. Using this past question helps. Joining IMGA helps. So you have more access to people, resources. They discuss the questions, they discuss the U words too, and discuss these or some other questions. You can join with someone to purchase a question bank or so. So I think these are some of the resources that can be very helpful. for Q1 and NAC. And of course, for NAC, you need to practice because you might have the knowledge in your brain, in your head, but if you're not able to present it well, then that's where they are assessing your clinical skills for the NACOSCI. Thank you.
Thank you. What if you haven't gotten your PR yet, how can one write the examinations for the residency in Canada? What do you advise one can do to improve their chances of matching into certain specialties, not family medicine? And what do you think are the chances of an IMG matching into certain specialties like surgery and ophthalmology in Canada?
So if you've not gotten your PR, you can write the exams. It doesn't stop you from writing the exam. It stops you from matching and starting the residency program. So you can actually write your English proficiency exam from back home. You can write your Q1 there in Lagos. Come in on a visitor visa, write your NACOSCI. The challenge starts from where you want to apply for the residency and then match to get your residency program. That's when we need your proof of PR. But writing the exams, you don't have to have a PR or citizenship status to be able to write that. So that settles that, I guess. And then how to be able to match to other specialty programs. What it can improve your chances? Yes, it's very competitive because there are fewer spots. For example, I'm a public health resident. We take only 2 per year. Or like family medicine, I think they take up to 80 something. This is just my own university. Other universities take more than that. And public health, I think most universities take 2 per year. Some other like microbiology take probably 1 per year. So it's because of the fewer spots for specialty programs that it's more competitive. And remember, you're competing against the Canadian medical graduates. The one thing I would say for IMGs applying for the specialty programs is that your track record matters. Like if you didn't do something related and then you suddenly jump in that you want to do that, you need to present your story in a way for us to believe that you are genuinely interested in this. That you're not just applying because you want to spread your tentacles and be able to see which one works. No. We need to know because we don't want to know that you want to come in and then switch. We want to know that you are genuinely interested in this. Like if you're applying to say whichever program, maybe ophthalmology, they look at your CV. If likely you did ophthalmology residency program back home, you are an ophthalmology specialist, and then you came here, you now want to apply to ophthalmology, you are likely to be chosen than someone that did something else entirely, maybe another residency program entirely, maybe urology or even family medicine residency program, and you suddenly came and you apply into ophthalmology. I'm not saying it's impossible, but your track record matters. Something like public health. If you did a public health residency program, you did a master's of public health program, probably even did a PhD in something related to public health. Those are very important. So your track record matters. So if you're able to provide the proof that you are genuinely interested in this, then that will improve your chances of matching into this specialty. We have people, Nigerians, that match into all these programs, ophthalmology, urology, ENT, all of them. So is it doable? Yes, but you need to prove that you are genuinely interested. Did I answer all the questions?
Yes, for now, yes. I'm sure there are still some down, but I'm trying to respond them off. But let's have Dr. Oluwebobe answer
All
some
right.
questions as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, Dr. Miracle, the first question for you, is there a pathway for fellows already going through fellows in the US? Sorry, is there a pathway for fellows in their home country to practice in the United States without going through the USMLE exams?
Yes, I think there is. There is actually a way. There are some persons that are able to go into fellowship straight up from their home country, apply for fellowship. However, there is actually a lot of limits to what the person can do during practice here in the US. That's why most times a lot of persons have to go through the USMLE pathway. We've seen a lot of persons that after doing their consultancy in their home country decide to come back to the US to do USMLE because of some of the limitations that are involved. Yeah, and it's also not very easy to go into fellowship straight from without doing residency. the usual pathway is that people do their residency here in the US before going to fellowship. And the US residents or those that are done with residents already are competing for the space compared to someone that never did residency here in the US and did it in the home country, trying to apply straight into fellowship. Yeah, it's possible, but it's really very much more tough, competitive, and in practice, there are also limits to what the person can be able to do because the person is not a US trained resident doctor. Yeah.
The second question is the information says Caribbean pathway and the United States. Could you shed more light on the Caribbean pathway?
Well, I'm not sure I have any information about the Caribbean pathway. Yeah, but I know that some persons moved down to the Caribbean to do some practice. Probably, I know some persons that from Nigeria went to the Caribbean, worked in some of their medical schools as a tutor. Then from there, are able to raise some money to come to the US to start practicing, or they wrote their exams and then from there moved to the US for their residency. But I'm not so sure I don't know much about the Caribbean pathway. Yeah.
Can a West African College of Physicians Fellow of Family Medicine of many years fit in? I'm not sure what country this is referring to. Is it Canada or United States? But I think we can answer for both.
Yeah, whichever way you are, if you are a fellow consultant, you should be able to fit in. I tell people that having a home country residence is actually a very big plus, especially if you are a consultant, you've done your part one.
I think we lost Dr. Miracle. Okay.
While we are waiting for him, I guess I could talk about Canada pathway. So
Yes.
the question is about having completed your residency, right?
Yes,
As a
more
fellow.
like so many years between graduation and residency, can they fit in after being a West African College of Physicians Fellow back home? So I think the person is more interested in the years, like the year gap. How easy is it to fit in?
Yes, so that gap is usually a challenge, especially when you're now more than 4 or 5 years. That's why there are different pathways you can bridge the gap. For Canada, you can, if you have a licensed clinical assistant position or licensed clinical associate position, if you're already within Canada, you can be able to use that to bridge the gap. Remember, I said the licensed, because provinces like Ontario, the clinical assistant position is not licensed. The provinces like Manitoba, it is licensed. So that can help you bridge the gap. Some people actually go back home to their home country, like Nigeria, to like work for some months, be able to meet the criteria for whichever pathway they want to apply, whether it's the PRA or whichever one. And a quick question I wanted to respond to about someone verifying with West. You don't need West verification if you're just verifying your MBBS. That's a waste of money. You do it via physicians apply. After verifying your document via physicians apply, which is the pathway for physicians, you can actually request for the educational equivalent stuff that you can now use to go into the express entry. They will send it to you, the address where you want it to get, and then with that, so it's equivalent to West verification kind of. With that, you can go to Express Entry and then show them as a proof of your document verification. So you do not need West to verify your documents if you're just verifying your MBBS or like your physician status for Canada. I'll hand over to Miracle to continue for the
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I had a little interruption. So, yes, I think having a home country residency is actually can be a plus, especially if you have your year of graduation is pretty long. Yeah, because most times, if you graduated more than 5 years, they would want to know what you've been doing for those 5 years. All right. So, and if you are doing residency or you already done with residency, it's kind of a very big plus. I think it's part of my own personal story because after I finished medical school, went to pharmacy, came back, then started working, practicing. And I mean, it was over 10 years. But one of the things I did was that I started residency over there in Nigeria. And it was part of what I added in my CV that I have a home country residency experience. And I believe that it was part of the reasons why I was able to match. So, yeah, having home country residency is a very big plus. And if you are also applying for residency in that specialty where you did your residency, it's also another very big plus. So I think if you have residency, West Africa college, Nigerian college, or whether it's part one, part two, or we are currently residency, I think it's actually a very big plus. You can, just like Dr. Chidubem talked about, the most important thing is how do you package your CV? You need to package your CV, speak the language very well, let them know who you are, what you've done, and how you can be able to use some of those experiences and knowledge towards, making the US health system better. Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Pharm, the coordinator, said he wanted to add something about the fellowship question.
Okay, sure.
Hi everyone. Sorry, I'm not the coordinator. I'm
Okay,
the
sorry, I
coordinator's
thought
wife.
it was you, sorry.
We
Okay,
have the same first name, so
okay.
apologies for that. So with regards to the fellowship question, right now there are a lot of things that are changing in terms of the criteria for some places. Where I'm currently at in Iowa, which is different from some other places, there are a lot of fellows who did their residency in their home countries, right? And they can come do fellowship here. However, they still, before they're able to write the fellowship board exam, they must still go and do the residency afterwards. So you're able to, so there are people that are coming from different countries for fellowship, especially in those specialties that a lot of people are not going into. So the demand makes is making the system want to relax the criteria a bit. So there's someone that's doing like pediatric cardiology, did residency in your home country and doing fellowship here now. However, to be able to practice cardiology or pediatric cardiology, they must still go through and do a pediatric residency. Same for some specialties like nephrology, those specialties that are not like the GI or the cardiology, them. Yes, you can come in. And some other states, I can only speak for Iowa, but I don't know for other states as well. But I think some other places are adjusting a bit just because they don't have a lot of fellows matching into those spots and the demands are still there. So if you've done your residency in your home country, you have a fellowship in your home country, yes, you can apply. So it's just like going to number two before going to number one. You still do number one, but you do number two first. So it's just an alternative option for anyone who meets that criteria. You still have to write all the USMLE exams, definitely, because these rules are being changed every day and differs from state to state.
Okay, thank you so much for that elaboration. From my end, I think we've answered most of the questions. The rest are pathways for people asking for pathways for specialties like surgery, general ophthalmology, pediatrics pathology in the US. And the pathways are basically similar, like Dr. Miracle had earlier elaborated. Then we have questions about preparing for the board exams, step 1, step 2, step 3, and suggestions on materials as well.
Okay, preparing for the board, for the exam, that's really not board exam. We have board exam.
Sorry
When you
for the
start,
exam.
yeah. All right. When you start residency, you also write your board exam. Okay. Well, the materials for step 1, step 2, step 3. I think I talked about the step 1 material. Yeah. But what I would do, because I mean we're running short of time. After now, there is a spreadsheet that was created. Those of us that wrote our name there, it will also be nice if you specify US or Canada. We'll be creating a WhatsApp group so that we can be able to answer some of those personal direct questions. We'll also be sharing some very important materials that you can use to facilitate your studying, where you can get them, some very important stuff that you need to do. I think we can be able to address that in the WhatsApp group, take those questions personally. But for the materials, I think I summarized it. You need your first aid, your U-word, your videos, and some other stuffs that you need to do there.
Thank you. Also, the question on financial implications for the USMLE, I think it was also addressed, and we can address it further on the WhatsApp when it's created. For those who filled out the Excel sheet, please could you also include your country code, as some people are just writing like just the numbers. We need to be sure of what the country code is, +234 +1. Then someone asked if you have done the ECFMG verification with Canada, can you use that verification for USMLE?
No, I don't think it's possible. There are two different pathways.
So
I'm not sure. I know that
even though I'm not clearly
you can use
exactly
USMLE
sure,
for that.
but I think it might be possible because the way Western world is, they're usually very flexible, especially when things are already source verified. So I think it's the same ECFMG that does for both Canada and US. Because in our matching system, you either match to Canada or to US. So when you actually apply for a residence, they actually ask you if you're applying to US. So you either match to Canada, you are not allowed to match to both if you're applying from Canada. So I think it's the same ECFMG. So because of that, I think you might be able to, I'm not exactly sure, but you should be able to if it's the same if ECFMG. If you ask them, sorry, Dr. Vu, I think she wants to chip in. Thank you for answering some of the questions on the chat. So Dr. Vu, yes, you can answer now if you know the answer.
I would say thank you, Chidubem. Thank you, Dr. Miracle. If you've already verified through ECFMG, you still have to apply to physician apply for Canada. You also you're going through the same process. However, it will be shorter because I had gone through the USMLE process and source verified all my documents with ECFMG. So when I did, I assumed, like Chidubem said, that they would share information, but they told me I still had to go through, but it was shorter compared to my husband. So all my verification came back really fast because ECFMG already had my data. So you still have to go through physician apply.
Thank you, Dr. Vu.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone. I think we'll take the closing remark from Dr. Oluebube. I will resend the link to the spreadsheet now so that those who haven't filled out can also do that.
Yeah, thank you so much to those that joined. Just like our coordinator said earlier when we are starting, we are CMDA North American and the Caribbeans. A lot of persons don't know that there is CMDA in America, in the Canada, in the Caribbeans. There is actually CMDA. And we actually have, a body here, which when some of us, if you come down to the US or in Canada, you can actually join. And it's a body that has blessed a lot of lives, including mine. And we have a WhatsApp group. So for those of us that are in the US or Canada currently, I think I may have to drop my number. You can chat me personally. I'll add you to our WhatsApp group. That's for those already in the US and Canada. Yeah, but for those that are asking for how to get into residency, we've already created this spreadsheet, and we can add our numbers there. I'll create a WhatsApp group for all of us to join. And the essence of this is for us to understand that, yes, we have a Christian body of CMDA here, so that when you come over to the US, a lot of persons are doing residency and they actually don't know that there is CMDA in North America and in Canada, where they can actually join and also have, the brethren and the whole sense of CMDA that they had when they were in medical school or when they were doctors over there in Nigeria. So we need to understand that, yes, we have a body where it exists. We have our meetings, we have our conferences. The last one we had a few months ago was in Texas, and it was very amazing. Our lives were blessed. So that when you start your residency, just know that you have a body, and as much as you can, try as much as possible to identify with CMDA. It's more or less like what we've always done over there. in Nigeria. And once again, thank you so much to Dr. Quinn for coordinating this amazing session. Thank you, Dr. Chidubem, for also giving us a very amazing insight on the US, the residency pathway in Canada, which I believe that a lot of us don't have much knowledge about. Even those days in Nigeria, a lot of persons don't really know how to go about the pathway towards residency in Canada. And you've really made it so easy and straightforward for those persons that are interested in joining or going into residency in Canada to be able to understand. Yeah, and we hope to also have other seminars and webinars to be able to talk about other things. I guess next time we'll talk about the different masters opportunities for those that want to do masters in the US and Canada, so that it's not only through residency that you can be able to come into the US and Canada. A lot of persons are in the country, they entered through masters, and by God's grace, the next time we'll be talking about the different masters opportunities. So I'll be dropping my number, but please, that's actually for those that are already in the US and Canada, so that you can be added to our WhatsApp group where we share a lot of information about our meetings, about our events. If you're not in the US or Canada, I guess it may not be necessary adding to the group, because there is really not so much you can be able to get from that. Yeah. Thank you so much. I think at this point, we'll be taking our either our closing prayer or CMDA, and then I don't know which one will be coming next.
We can take the anthem and the prayers as well.
All right. So we can, for those of us in CMDA, remember our anthem. You can unmute yourself. Then let's take our CMDA anthem. God made man, spirit,
soul, and body.
God
God made
made
man,
man,
spirit, soul, and body. God made man, spirit, soul, and body. Yeah, for the hope of healing to the body, salvation to the soul of man, healing to the body, salvation to the soul of man, healing to the body, salvation to the soul of man. Spirit liberation. CMDA has risen to the call of God. CMDA has risen to the call of God. CMDA has risen
Into the sky of God. Going, join the
His mission to
I guess we'll have to take the closing prayers. Just like I said earlier, I just dropped my number on the chat box. If you're in US or Canada currently, you can just chat me up. I'll add you to our general WhatsApp group. For others, we'll create a WhatsApp group where we'll talk more about the the pathways, the mentorship, and every other thing that you need to know. You can ask your questions in the WhatsApp group. All right, thank you so much. Can we take the closing prayer? We prayed in the name of Jesus. Most Heavenly Father, I want to bless your holy name this afternoon/night for such a wonderful session. Thank you for our speakers, our moderators, those that you've used to facilitate this meeting. Thank you because of the persons that you brought to listen and the insights that we've been able to share. We ask, oh God, for the grace and enablement, those that are trusting you to embark on this pathway, those that are looking forward towards becoming residents in the US and Canada. We ask, oh God, that you make whatever thing that they need to be available unto them in the name of Jesus. Father, oh God, we ask, oh God, that whatever be the limitations, be it financial limitation, be it resource, be it the grace and the zeal to be able to start the process, the studying and everything. Father, we ask, oh God, that you grant each and every one of them the grace, oh God, to be able to start this journey and to be successful in them in the name of Jesus. Father, for those, oh God, who have started the process, we ask, oh God, that you make everything available to them. We ask, oh God, that you cause that this journey will be smooth and seamless for them. That whenever each and every one of them, oh God, wish to match, that you make it easy and possible unto them in the name of Jesus. Father, thank you, God, for the house of CMDA. Thank you for CMDA Global. Thank you for CMDA America and Caribbean. Thank you for CMDA Nigeria. Thank you because your church is moving forward and the gates of hell will not prevail. Thank you, God, for our leaders. Thank you for our schools. Thank you for our coordinators. We ask, oh God, that your grace, oh God, will be made sufficient and available unto us in the name of Jesus. Be thou exalted, be thou glorified and honored. To you be all that glory this night. For in Jesus' most wonderful name we have prayed. Amen. All right, thank you so much for joining. Yeah.
Thank you all so much for joining. If you have any questions, please reach out to Dr. Miracle on WhatsApp. I also dropped my number as well. And the spreadsheet is opened again. Someone mistakenly closed it out, but I've opened it again. So if you're having issues, please try again. Thank you, guys.
Queen, I'm so sorry. I didn't see Dr. Miracle's number. I'm here in the US. I'm Dr. DK. I didn't see
Okay,
Dr.
I would send that to you now.
Oh, I hope you already have got my number, right?
Sorry?
Did you get my phone number?
Yes, you had sent it earlier.
All right. Thank you so very much, and I appreciate it.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
Mama, sorry, I've
Please,
not
the
been able to
spreadsheet link.
edit this. Can you send your number so can just send you a
I've
message
opened
directly?
the spreadsheet again, so that's why I said you all should try again.
Okay.
Yes.
All
Please
right.
send it again. I can't see it.
Okay.
Thank you. And it's not, I've not been